here we are. This is Sex Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat, bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more. Now that we got the psychedelics conversation to lube us up here, back to this whole conversation around poor communication and getting our needs met or getting our desires met. I was approached by a colleague of mine at Burning Man who was sharing with me about this workshop that he was teaching around dominance and submission. And his intention was to teach the men how to intuit how their partner would want to be dominated without words, but only by feeling the energy and using attunement to identify it. And when he shared this with me, my initial response was, nope. Because the reality is, most people, and here I'm going to say men identifying, although maybe you're one of those men who are like, that's not me, Dr. Kat. And you know what? Fine. I'm not talking about you. But most male identifying humans are projecting rather than attuning. So hear me out. Attunement is different than projection. Attunement is when we are present to what we're factually seen in front of us. These are details, facial expressions, body shifts, positioning, eye contact, vocal tones, tensions. And attuning presence is the awareness of ourself and what's going on inside of ourselves and the other person. So this is the ability to observe both inside this like internal landscape of ourselves, the contractions, the expansions in our own body, the somatic responses, our thoughts, our nausea, our emotional experience. At the same time that we're observing and we're present to the verbal and the nonverbal communication of everyone involved. So attunement is your ability to pay attention and use what you observe to inform you as to where they are at. And when we can use our words to verify that, because we can't necessarily read their mind to interpret what it is, but we're picking up signs and signals from them that something has shifted or something is happening. Projection, on the other hand, is the stories about the meaning of what we see. It's the assumptions about what the other person wants or where they're at or anticipating their needs or being hyper vigilant to their potential rejection. This is operating from quote unquote rules that someone told us about how the other gender is supposed to want or to act. Now, projection happens because it's too vulnerable for us to be present to what's happening in front of us and to get clarity of what that is. Projection is a form of protection that we engage in to manage our own feelings of undeserving or unmet needs from our youth, or a fear of rejection. Perhaps we have memories from the past where we were rejected by somebody, memories of pain that we want to protect against. So the brain is recalling these memories. It's created some sort of belief or rule that it wants us to operate from to be able to protect us. And that isn't necessarily what's happening. So projection happens because we don't have the skills to communicate directly or to ask or request with curiosity, but instead we're simply defaulting to the automatic response of our brain and of our body. Without slowing down, we're just in reaction. Attunement, we notice when somebody winces. We actually don't know what the wince is about, but the person is having some sort of reaction. And then we can use our words to clarify. You know, if this is a partner, for example, we can pause, we can give space, We're not trying to push our way through. And we can ask with non-judgmental curiosity. Say something like, I noticed that you just tensed and you pulled away. Is there something that you need? Or I'm noticing that your attention is floating away, or you seem to be distracted. Can we pause for a moment? Can we check in? What's coming up for you? I'd like to know what's coming up for you. You can even let them know I'm here with you, or it's safe to tell me what's coming up for you. Or let's just slow everything down and be present to what's happening. I've used many of these personally. And what it does is it gets everyone involved to come out of the habituated reaction state so that we can get curious and have create insight here where we can connect with what's happening versus just defaulting, deferring to what's automatically happening. And when we don't use our words to clarify, we might assume that the wince means something, could mean something about us. This is where it oftentimes goes, oh my God, that means something about me. Or it means something about, usually it's like it's something bad about me. So either I ignore it and push through it or override it. And if we're not using our words, and most often we aren't, then we're drawing upon these old reference points, like I said, from the past. So they don't think I'm attractive, or I need to be more assertive, or women hate it when men are hesitant, or she thinks I'm a creep. She didn't say no yet, so I need to warm her up, or I need to keep going. And you might laugh when I'm saying these things, but these things literally happen. Whether the person is conscious of it or not, their body, their actions are responding by these internal beliefs from culture, from past experiences, from family, from peers, and things they've read, things they've watched. And the issue with pushing onward without words is that you may not actually be interpreting the body language accurately. So this is what I was coming back to with my homeboy who was talking to me about this workshop. I was like, bro, you can't, like, if you have a high level workshop where you've already been working with these people and you've been anchoring in the trust between the partners that are practicing that, then I could see you teaching them about intuiting and feeling energy. But majority of the people, especially if you're teaching this at Burning Man, they ain't gonna know the difference between attuning and a projecting, or they may not have developed the trust to know their partner to be able to intuit what they want. So they're just like perpetuating the same exact cultural pressure on men to have to intuit. And that's just, it's a whole ballroom of trouble there.
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to sexlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on Sex, Love, Psychedelics.